Hi there, and welcome to this day in history for October 13th. October 13th is the 286th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 287th in leap years, with 79 days remaining to the end of the year. Today's word is Triskaidekaphobia. This can be pronounced Triskaidekaphobia or Triskaidekaphobia. Triskaidekaphobia is how I learned it, so that's how I'll say it here, Triskaidekaphobia. Any guesses as to what that might mean? Triskaidekaphobia is a noun that means fear of the number 13. Here's the breakdown. You might already know that the last part, phobia, means a fear of something. In modern psychological terms, a phobia is considered to be an extreme or irrational fear of or aversion to something. When you see a word ending with phobia, it means an intense fear of whatever the first part of the word is. In this case, with Triskaidekaphobia, Triskaideka comes to us from Greek word parts that mean 3 and 10, or 13. The notion or concept of a fear of 13 has been assigned to a variety of reasons dating back thousands of years, but really the concept only begins to appear in writing in the late 1800s. And got its name Triskaidekaphobia in about 1911. Interestingly, the first time I remember hearing the word Triskaidekaphobia was from an old bricklayer, of all things. If you didn't know him, you might think, that old rube? He always sounded like he had a chaw of tobacco in his cheek. He was surprisingly well-read, though. Mr. Dimmick, what a guy. He's gone on years ago now, but I'll sure never forget him. So here we are in October on Friday the 13th, which made me think of the word Triskaidekaphobia. I do talk at length about Triskaidekaphobia in another episode, and I'll try to find that and include a link to it for you if you're interested in checking that out. Now remember, if you have a word you'd like us to examine in this Word of the Day segment, drop it in the comments. We'll take a look at it. And with that, we're going to start on October 13th in the year 54, when Tiberius Claudius Caesar Augustus Germanicus died from poisoning under mysterious circumstances. Why do we care about that? He had become emperor in January in the year 41, when he was about 51, and probably only survived to that age because he'd had a limp and slight deafness due to some sort of childhood illness, which made would-be enemies see him as non-threatening. He'd survived the purges during the reigns of Tiberius and Caligula, and was declared emperor by the Praetorian Guard when Caligula was assassinated. Claudius turned out to be a pretty decent emperor, good for the empire in general. His slight infirmities had served as great camouflage, leading murderous powermongers to see him as harmless, but now that he was emperor, some still saw him as weak and vulnerable. He was married 4 times, fathered 4 children. His 4th wife, Julia Agrippina, also known as Agrippina the Younger, happened to be his niece and the mother of Nero, whom Claudius adopted. There are other theories, but it's generally believed that his wife, Agrippina the Younger, Nero's mother, was behind this poisoning. Claudius was 63 at the time of his death. Nero was appointed his successor, but Claudius's youngest son, Britannicus, would also die of poisoning the night before his 14th birthday a few months later, when he will have been considered adult enough to possibly be considered for a future emperor. Now we're going to jump from the 1st century to the 20th century, so I'll take this opportunity to say that I do talk about other things in previous years for October 13th, and I'll include a link to one of those in case you'd like to see about some of that. This is the birthday of singer-songwriter Paul Simon, born October 13th, 1941. He began performing with his friend from school, Art Garfunkel, in the 1950s, and the duo became known for their blend of folk and rock in such songs as The Sound of Silence, Mrs. Robinson, and Bridge Over Troubled Water. The team disbanded in 1970, and Paul Simon enjoyed solo success with such songs as Still crazy after all these years? 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, and You Can Call Me Al. He's been a prolific songwriter and performer with 15 studio albums, 61 singles, and dozens of other media as a solo artist, plus the 26 singles and dozens of other media created as part of Simon & Garfunkel. Quite the creative. Still alive and still working, Paul Simon turns 82 in 2023. And in honor of Paul Simon's birthday, today's song is Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon & Garfunkel. Composed by Paul Simon, Art Garfunkel is the lead vocalist on this one. You can hear the influence of gospel music and the big wall of sound style of production. Interesting to note that the instrumentation was provided by the Wrecking Crew, who I've mentioned before, out in Los Angeles, whereas the singing was recorded in New York. Bridge Over Troubled Water is Simon & Garfunkel's most successful song and is considered a signature song for them. It hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 at the end of February 1970 and held that spot for 6 weeks. Great song, Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon & Garfunkel. Link in the description. And I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with a link in your email, messaging, or social media. If you enjoy this series, you can check out the playlist that contains these videos. I'll put a link to that in the description. That playlist lives on YouTube, so for other platforms, I'll include a link to my blog page that's called No Really. You can also find me on Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey. All those links in that description. Alrighty, that's all I can think of right now. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. This is the birthday.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
I wasn't talking to you. Okay. Cacophony is a sound. Cacophony is a noun that... I'm going to have to look that up. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. Alrighty. You got to read it the right way. Let's start over. It's 8 o'clock, so all of the reminders are going to be dinging. I forgot to turn those off. Okay, stop it. Don't alienate people who can be helpful to you. Flinging happiness all over the place. Alrighty, back to work. I think we got it this time.